Alright, so this lesson is going to focus on the last song on the new record, Clone of the Universe, which is actually the song that takes up all of side 2, because we still think of it in sides, because we have vinyl. And this is Mostro Atomico. This is an 18-minute, mostly instrumental song, which features a guest appearance from Alex Lifeson of RUSH in the middle section on guitar solo and sort of noise-making part. So anyways, this song actually started out as an idea that Scott Hill had mentioned to me about, hey, wouldn't it be cool to do a song that took up an entire side? And of course, I thought that was great. The actual getting it together was a little bit tougher than that. We had a bunch of disparate pieces that were moving around, and I think the first time we demoed what we actually had about 10 minutes. So we knew that we wanted to come up with maybe another 10, and just kind of pull some stuff that we were working on together to see what would fit. And then we played it over and over and over again, so by the time we went into the studio, the actual studio take that's on the record is, I believe, just 2 takes. And so the entire thing is pretty much live. It's not played to a click. And so there's certain parts in the song where I have to be very mindful, as always, of the tempo, to not go too fast, too slow, because it also affects other parts of the song towards the end, which are connected. We'll get to that. So the first thing I want to do is go over the very first part. We kind of, I guess, arrived at this song being in 4 different movements, I guess you'd want to say, although we didn't go as far as titling them. So the first one is just the main riff, which starts off by itself, and the beat kind of carrying along with that. It's a fairly slow tempo, so it should be a pretty easy beat to figure out. Some of the drum parts in this song were definitely planned out as far as what was going to be played, but in this particular part, I just knew that I really wanted to follow very closely to the riff, stay out of the way, and in certain parts tag the turnarounds, because the riff goes for 4 times, and then there's a solo for 4 times, and it goes back and forth in that first part before we switch to a different riff. So the first whole half of the song is played over here on the ride, and I'll demonstrate the main beat and some fills that I do in those sections, mainly the floor tom tag that goes right before the solo bits. And I've been changing the fills around because we play this song every night on tour. It's usually the last song of the set, and it's a lot of fun to play. It takes a hell of a lot of concentration to get it right, even though it doesn't sound like it sometimes, which I guess if it doesn't sound like it, that's a good thing, right? So anyways, here's that first part, and just some fills that are in this in the style of what I play, because the first part of it was basically improvised fills around this riff, just kind of trying to stay out the way. So here we go. So first part of the song there, the beat is very slow. There's a lot of space between the notes. In my counting, I'm counting as a 1 and 2 and 3 and 4, but also just to try to drag the time back a little bit and make it seem a little bit more behind the beat. I'm trying to go 1 and also hitting those crashes on the actual riff. And then if I have some space in there, put in some very spare fills. And then there's the one fill on the end of the section where I switch from this side to over here to crash with the left hand, and then build up the floor tom fill before the tag at the end of it going. variation that I play during that particular part where I might add a little bit more, but I always keep that rooted in the floor tom fill that goes right before the solos, and that also kind of helps me to keep track of where it's at. So then the second riff that we do, I switch to this side of playing the hi-hat, and again, there's a tag on the end of that that centers itself around the floor tom and a little quick double bass kind of triplet fill that is demonstrated here if you watch it. So check that out. Okay, so this is the section of the song where Alex Lifeson comes in, and it's about 3 minutes 58 into the song. He stays for about 2 minutes, and so the beginning of it, where his guitar part comes in, I'm actually playing a pattern underneath that, myself and Brad. When we were initially putting the song together, we didn't quite know exactly where would be a good spot for him to go in, and as we got closer to recording and we were rehearsing it, and we kind of felt that this would probably be you know, the most likely place that he would want to put something. So we kind of leaned more towards that. He actually recorded more stuff for the song that we didn't have time to put in sort of at the late hour when we were mixing. So I wanted to play something in this part that would change every other measure and just, you know, kind of keep it slow and hypnotic, but make it a fill section and also serve the song as well, and hopefully, you know, create something interesting for him to play over that wasn't super busy, and because we had no idea what he was going to do. So it ended up being a really musical part, and he didn't really go crazy as a soloist. And then there's a section where everything drops out and it's just him, and then there's a lot of noises and effects and stuff and swoops that he put in that were pretty interesting. So I'm going to demonstrate the pattern that I played, and really it just involves every part of the drum kit, starting off kind of centered in the first measure of the pattern being here on these toms, and ending with an open hi-hat, and then in the second measure coming down from the concert toms all the way over, and then ending with a bell on the ride. And that repeats, and this is a part that I actually did plan out, so I try to recreate it pretty faithfully every night live if I can. And it does take some concentration, as always, not to screw it up. So here you go. Okay, so in that part of the song, there is a lot of stuff coming into play that I'm using in there. I'm trying to keep the rhythm as solid as I can, not make it super busy, and also at the end of it leading up to the open hi-hats and the bell marking, which is on the and of 4. If you want to count that part, if I was to tap it out just on the snare drum, the whole thing would be counted 1 and a 2E and a 3E and a 4E and 1 and a 2E and a 3E and a 4E and so that rhythm played obviously over the toms, and then the roll at the end that leads up to there, the press roll. I'm just trying to kind of create some kind of tension in there and a wind up to the end, and then what I do at the very, very end is actually end on the 1 on the bell. So the rhythm changes 1 and 2 3E and a 4E and 1. And on that and, I'm doing the roll. Whereas before the roll starts on 1 and 2E and 3E and. So kind of starts a little later on the very, very end, just to tag that on the downbeat. As far as the placement of everything, because I have these toms over here tuned in succession, the tuning goes. Right, so I have this left-handed floor tom, which you can't see here probably, but you can see it on the overhead. So I can do some open-handed flams, and it just kind of puts a different thing over here for me to mess around with and come up with different parts. But the tuning obviously, affects the ascending, or descending I should say, fill going down. It's not exactly going tonality-wise. It's actually going down, up again, down to the floor toms, and that's on the second part with the concert toms. So that part's super fun to play every night. Makes me get in my press rolls and try and use that drumline expertise from way back in the day. I shouldn't say expertise, because I'm definitely not an expert at it, but I'm still practicing. So anyways, that's the Alex Lifeson part, and that pretty much concludes parts 1 and 2 of the song, except there's another sort of add-on to that when we come back in as a full band, where Alex is still kind of left over, and we play that other riff, and then there's a larger fill at the end of that goes into the third part of the song, which is a really long 16th note snare pattern. I'm not quite sure exactly how many measures it is, but we're going to demonstrate that in the next part of this lesson. That would be part 2. All right, so hope you've enjoyed the first part. There's lots more to come in Il Mostro Atomico.